let's talk about other people who are sort of under fire.
Okay.
Brock Purdy. This is his first taste of adversity. Brock Purdy. Everything's been so easy for him. He got hurt, but now he's lost 3 in a row, and he's been a central reason into a lot of these losses.
Yes.
How do you think he's handling adversity, and how do you think he's going to handle adversity?
I think he's handling it well. You can see that there's always been 2 different tracks, if you will, on how the team talks about Brock and how coaches talk about Brock, and then when Brock himself talks, right? Even in the summer, it seemed as though that Brock was kind of tempering expectations on even the pace of his own rehab coming into the season. Even when we talked about one of the things that ingratiated Brock with the team is his maturity, and it's showing through. I don't see him necessarily at the podium panicking, right? We haven't had any gaffes or any gotcha moments from Brock. He's been class personified and very professional. So from that standpoint, he's exactly what we've expected and more, right? As far as what you want out of not only a young player, but a quarterback, right? He's looked quarterbackian, right? Now, in the games when he has struggled, there are things that you want to see a little bit more of that are alarming, right? And the reason why they're alarming is because they lean against what he does well when things are going good, such as processing and game management. There are times where it seems as though that Brock is getting the ball out a little too late as far as getting out of the huddle, right? Getting to the line of scrimmage. I think we had to delay a game during one of our drives. Also, putting a little bit too much on himself and not letting Kyle's plays shield him for what he needs to do during 2-minute drives or the lack thereof. So it's a little bit of yin and yang, good and bad, but all in all, from a kid who hasn't played a full season yet coming out, I'd say he is exactly where he needs to be. Now, the progression track on where the team thinks he needs to be, the PR side of what fans think where he needs to be, that's a whole nother discussion.
I think it's interesting because, he's had all the success in the NFL. It wasn't this easy for him in college. This is a guy who struggled in college to a degree, lost a lot of games in college. And I'm looking in 2019, he lost 4 of his last 6. And in 2021, he lost 4 of his last 6. So even in college, sometimes when adversity would hit him, he wouldn't necessarily respond. And I think it's interesting. He's had these problems in the fourth quarter when it's time to be heroic. He's had these problems when he's down. And it seems like, I don't know, it seems like it's snowballing, man. He had 1 turnover 3 weeks ago, then 2 turnovers and 3 turnovers. I wonder when he's sitting in the meeting, watching himself struggle for the first time, what's he thinking of? How hard is he on himself? How does he handle watching? Like, how honest is he with himself? Like, man, that's terrible.
Right.
He's been here before. And this is interesting. I think we're going to learn, because if he can't handle adversity, if he can't fourth quarter, if he can't handle being down, he's a flash in the pan.
I mean, yeah, and it's teetering on that. I mean, look, all of the conversation plays on one side when he goes 5-0 and he's looking like he's fitting hand and glove into the offense. We hear everything as far as MVP, right? So, I mean, these are the druthers of being an NFL quarterback. If you're going to be a quarterback in the NFL, then you're going to have to understand that you got to take the good with the bad. And right now, there's been bad. There's been damn near a whole month of bad. And even in the 5-0, even in the 5 games, there were bad games, right? So I feel as though that, there are some people who are really trying to like soften the blow and really hone in on these 3 games. But the 3 games aren't the only bad games that we've seen from Brock. Right. And as a matter of fact, even in those 3 games, the Cincinnati game, he did well. I really didn't have a problem with how Brock plays. It was just when it counted. And that's what you get paid for, when it counts. So it's going to be a labor of love because we're still hearing things. Also, Grant, we're hearing things about Brock being still letting people know in pregame interviews that he's not healthy. He's not 100% back yet. So that's lingering. So, it's an ongoing issue, but I feel like if anybody could have needed a bye, it's Brock Purdy.
We got to see how he bounces back, because if he continues his downward spiral, they need to make a change. That's what's so disconcerting about what's happening. It looks like he's in a downward spiral. And is it because he can't handle adversity? Is he being too hard on himself? Does he have a little too much Nick Mullins in him? What's going to happen with Brock Purdy here? And he has to think about this all week. He has to watch his bad clips all week. I don't know.
Yeah, he should want to watch his bad clips all week.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to, then you really don't need to be in the job. I don't see Brock shying away from anything like that. I really do believe that there's a way around this spotty play. And what's great about it is that Brock just needs to do his part, because it's not all Brock. Right. I could see if this was a singularity conversation where we're just focused on Brock, man. Everything is working but Brock. Right. But the way we started this season was, and let's not forget this, the way we started this season is that this team was saying that Brock was enough. Right. He was the guy. Our coach. So really, Brock hasn't been getting the support that he needs. So, what are we going to do? Are we going to watch Brock carry the team, which we starting to see that that's not an option? Right. So I feel like we're slowly but surely, this picture is slowly but surely coming into focus where the team needs to be helping Brock.
Right. I'd also say that Brock needs to help himself here, because it seems like they don't need Brock to carry the team. They need Brock to stop turning the ball over. They need Brock to stop losing games. And that's what it is. And so this is all between him and him right now. He needs to dig deep within himself and figure out, why are you doing this? Why are you losing games to teams you shouldn't lose games? Why are you giving the ball away? Why are you choking in the fourth quarter? For example, hold on. I think the narrative and the story about Brock is changing big time. It went from great story, you can't criticize him, to, well, he's a starting quarterback who's now lost 3 in a row. I kind of compare it to Tony Romo. Tony Romo was an undrafted free agent. He was a great story for a while. But when you look back on Tony Romo's career, no one cares about that. A lot of people wouldn't even know he's an undrafted free agent. They just say choker, threw a lot of picks.
Yeah. And really, I'm glad you finished off with that, because out of all of the, characteristics, right, or the superlatives about Brock's game, right, his maturity, his processing, his elite anticipation, his athleticism outside of the pocket, his off schedule play. Quarterbacks are defined by turnovers. They are defined by turnovers. That is the NFL. That's what defines you. There are tons of
other position can lose the game quicker than the quarterback.
No other position. And honestly, if you're going to look at things let's be honest, the number one thing with Jimmy was what? Injuries and turnovers. So everything else in between, it can look good, and we can just get to it another way, where now, instead of when Kyle calls plays where the first and second, third read isn't there, now we have a quarterback that can get out and create. But we still have to face our demons, and that is that we've got to rectify what seems to be a little bit of a trait that you reported throughout the summer. You talked about. We all saw the turnover-worthy plays when Brock was playing, even in his run last year. We saw those throws previous years coming up, and now you're starting to see defenses actually put together game plans to not only exploit that about Brock, but exploit it when they really need it the most, right? Minnesota and Cincinnati, they didn't get lucky. What they did is they watched Cleveland's film, and they saw Wosu miss that pick. All right. And then they schemed it. Okay. And what they realized is that, okay, we may not be able to do this all game, but we know if we stay close enough, we can do it when the game counts. That's gamesmanship. That's football. Thing about it is that our problem is that we have lost games to the softest part of our schedule, right? We're going to see teams that can actually do what Cincinnati did late, what Minnesota did intermittently throughout the game. We're going to start playing defenses that can do that all game. And that is going to be the modus operandi. So we got to get ready. And that's what they have to get prepared for the bye.
Yeah. So Brock, your homework at the bye week, it's not that you need to step it up. It's that you need to turn it around. You need to sort of find who you were before this hit, because right now you're looking like a guy who's sort of buckling under the adversity.